Entrepreneurially Thinking is a presentation of BioSTL and CET, Center for Emerging Technologies, with Rare Gem Productions, changing the way you view new ventures, including you on the pathway to success with your business in the St. Louis marketplace and beyond. Here's your hosts, Cheryl and Christy. Now let's get thinking entrepreneurially.
Welcome to the Entrepreneurially Thinking Podcast. Our goal is to energize your entrepreneurial mindset and create pathways for business success in the St. Louis marketplace and beyond. I'm Christy Maxfield, Director of Entrepreneur Development Services at the Center for Emerging Technologies.
And I am Cheryl Watkins-Moore, Director of Bioscience and Entrepreneurial Inclusion for BioSTL. Hey, Christy.
Hi. With each show, we step out of our comfort zone and we invite you to join us for the journey. We want to take the constraints off how you view your current and future endeavors. You could join us and stay in touch with the Entrepreneurially Thinking community on all your favorite online streaming platforms, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, or by visiting our website at entrepreneuriallythinking.com, #eThinkSTL. If you happen to be on iTunes, please give us a 5-star rating so all the folks out there can also find us and love us as much as you do.
Hey, we are so excited to bring you a wonderful entrepreneur in our community, Ralph Thompson. He is the Managing Director and Co-Founder of Mine Safety Management, LLC, a St. Louis information technology corporation with headquarters located in our own CORTEX Innovation Complex. For many of our listeners who are interested in pursuing the development of a consulting organization or a professional services organization, the next 30 minutes will be key for you to listen to Ralph. You need to understand how he built his company, the growth he's achieved, and understand how he's pursued and won some large business and government contracts. His company has been recognized and awarded 6 years in a row as a top 25 African-American owned business in St. Louis by the Regional Chamber, the Urban League, and the St. Louis American Foundation. I am so excited, Christy. I think this is going to be an awesome opportunity.
Of course. And what I'm excited about is Ralph likes to keep a low profile. Yes. So he's really stepped outside of his comfort zone, which is what we're encouraging all of our listeners to do, just to be with us today.
Absolutely.
So we've told him he does not need to disclose anything that he is not comfortable with. Mm-hmm. But that we are going to probe with regard to his expertise and experience so that we can all learn from those journeys that he's already made. So we're going to take a quick break and come right back and start our conversation with Ralph.
Now here's Make It Happen with Keith Sales Pro.
Here are the top 5 things that keep most people from achieving real success. Number 1, the fear of failure or loss, not wanting to be a risk taker. Number 2, quick to quit. Gave up too fast, lacked what I call stick-to-itness. 3, failed to do homework, did not do enough research on the project, or really didn't have your heart into it, wasn't passionate about it. 4, never possessed the skill set for the business or job, need more knowledge and information. And finally, allowed others to discourage you and make you doubt yourself and what you're doing. Today, remember, it can happen. It will happen. And together, we will make it happen.
Follow Keith Sales Pro on Facebook or Twitter at Keith Sales Pro, or visit his website at keithsalespro.com.
It can happen. It will happen. And together, we will make it happen.
I'm Gülcan Yayla, and I'm a student at Washington University in St. Louis and a co-founder of East St. Louis Initiative. I think entrepreneurial thinking is going beyond your limits and pushing yourself to do what you really want to do.
Okay, well, we are back. Ralph, welcome to our show. Welcome to our podcast.
Thank you very much.
Well, you are Mr. Undercover in St. Louis. I think I met Ralph. Has it been 2 years ago?
It's been 2 years ago, yeah.
Yeah.
And you've been talking about him ever since.
I have been talking because I think he is phenomenal. So why don't you take us through your journey? How did you start this Mine Safety Management, and when did you start it and all that good stuff?
It was started in 2003. I spent close to 12 years in the U.S. Air Force. And while I was in the military, I had a marketing firm while I was still in the military.
So you were entrepreneurially thinking and doing.
To be totally honest with you, I've been an entrepreneur probably since I was 7 years old.
Okay, what was the first venture?
Yeah.
First venture was selling newspapers with my grandmother.
Awesome.
Second venture was shoveling snow.
Yep.
The third adventure was raking leaves. And the fourth was working at the original Busch Stadium as a vendor.
So you used things in your immediate area to make some money. I love that.
Always.
So you were a vendor at Busch. What were you selling? T-shirts?
Coca-Cola.
Really?
Ice cold Coca-Cola here.
Oh,
Ice cold.
wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that gave me a certain personality at a young age. My grandfather, my mother, they've always been super hardworking. Mm-hmm. They've always encouraged the kids in the family to be entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. So I think it's always kind of been in my DNA.
Was your mom and dad, were they entrepreneurs or?
No, they paid for very good schools for me and my brother to go to. They worked at the post office and the Corps of Engineers. Yep. I mean, they were all, our family is a pretty driven, hardworking family.
And that education piece is a theme we hear all the time.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, it's the foundation.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So take us through, now we know that you have
from newspapers and vending at the Busch Stadium. We've got some time in the Air Force.
Well, what made you think about going into the military?
I've always had a big love of country. Mm-hmm. My father was in the military. My grandfather was in the military.
In the Air Force too, or no?
No, they were in the Navy. and they encouraged me to join the Air Force.
Really?
Oh,
okay.
yeah. The quality of living. I've been on a computer for probably 20, 30 years. I mean, not to date myself, but I've been on a computer since I joined the military.
Oh, wow. What were you doing there? Is that top secret classified?
That's one of those things you can't probe about.
Yeah.
So that's what you use those skills from the military. And then you started a marketing firm while you were in the military. What type of marketing firm? And
we dealt with a lot of corporations to do special events. My one cousin worked in Anheuser-Busch, and he was like, "Don't talk to Anheuser-Busch about money. Talk to them about a radio buy." They gave me like a $250,000, and then I would use the radio buy to go to the hotels and airlines. We would fly over special artists like Puffy or 112.
So like promos,
yeah, promotional events.
Yeah, okay.
And from that, I decided with my business partner, Peter Jones, who helped me start Mine Safety Management, to do a project management IT information technology company.
So how did you go from promotional opportunities to now this project management IT, right?
Yes.
Focused company?
I mean, they're the margins. It's all about margins. It's all about business. Whatever you're selling, you want to make a profit off of it.
You hope to.
That's why you go from snow to raking leaves to vending at Busch. Yeah. Now you go from promotions to
multi-million-dollar IT deal.
Okay.
I like it. So that started, and that was your business partner, and you all came up with this idea. Okay, tell me how y'all come up with this Mine Safety Management name.
It was really close to after 9/11. And he was like, "Name the company." And I was like, "Okay." And to be honest, I had a dream, woke up the next day, said, "We're going to call it Mine Safety Management." Okay. It's nothing elaborate. It's nothing, As we move closer into a more cybersecurity world, I think the name Mine Safety Management fits.
Okay.
So that's why we named it.
It's like peace of mind.
Yes. That used to be our slogan. We give all our customers peace of mind.
See, that could work for you. I came up with the slogan.
You're feeling the groove.
I was right behind him.
You know exactly where he's going. You're buying what he's selling.
Oh my gosh! So tell us about what your company does. How did you start it? Did you start with just the two of you, and where you are now with Mine Safety Management or MSM?
We started with MSM with a strong team of individuals that have been in the IT space for over 30 years.
How many people?
Right now, the core of the company is about 20 people. Mm-hmm. We have 5 core people, myself, Peter, and 3 other HR people that have been with us forever.
So it started with maybe 5, is that what you're saying?
5 original
and then
people.
You grew to...
We grew to 20 people.
Wow.
Are you all here in Cortex?
Oh, no.
No.
We're, the largest part of our business is in Washington, D.C. I'm a native of St. Louis. We really want to focus on St. Louis as things start to change in the area to be a part of the rebirth of the urban community in St. Louis.
Fantastic. What does that look like for you, being part of the rebirth of the urban community?
It's a very diverse, from age to background to race, just a very diverse, eclectic community where people can ride their bikes, walk to work. Yeah, I mean it's like utopia. It doesn't exist yet. We're still working out the kinks on making it happen. But it's a dream. I mean, my parents. Your parents are your foundation. My parents grew up in Pruitt-Igoe.
Yeah.
To see all the exciting things happening with the NGA project is something.
Wow.
That's transforming that.
I even told my girlfriend, I was like, when they finish that building, that's probably the first time you ever see me cry. Because I do remember being a 2-year-old going back, and my grandmother keeping me and looking at the fireworks out of the window, looking at the fireworks at the arch area. So I think it's a positive part of the rebirth of St. Louis.
That's fantastic.
That
really hits home for you in a way that not all St. Louisans can say it does. So.
It's almost like full circle.
It's really full circle.
Yeah.
Knock on wood. So.
Wow. Are you also finding the talent you need to help be part of that rebirth from the employer standpoint? Because I know it's big to have that vision of what the community could look like and feel like, but I'm just curious.
Well, I mean, like anything else in life, I believe it's a challenge, but we're finding the right people with the right skill set.
Here in St. Louis?
In St. Louis, yeah.
Great. So you started in D.C., right? So were you...
We've always been incorporated in St. Louis.
Oh, okay.
We've always been a St. Louis company. However, 95% of all government contracts come out of D.C.
So do you have another location?
Yes, we have another office in the D.C. area.
Okay, but your home, the headquarters, is here in St. Louis.
We get to claim him.
Yes. So tell us about, what does mine safety management do? I mean, we know that you're focused in information technology, but you can share are you project manager? Right. Are you project management with companies?
If a large organization, let's say Organization A, was going through information technology upgrade in a certain platform or technology, we would help them manage through that process.
Okay.
And hopefully it will take some time.
Yes. It's like SAP. I always say I've been through 2 SAP installations at 2 different companies, and SAP has always almost taken that company down.
Oh, no. But in the meantime.
Right. So I think is that what you help companies?
Oh, yeah. If it's like a major upgrade in a Java platform or Oracle platform, we kind of help them with that.
So how did you guys go about getting your first customers?
Our first customer was off of a government website called fedbizops.gov or www.fbo.gov for short.
So you guys started with the federal government. You didn't go outside looking for private organizations first?
No.
Okay.
We started with the federal government.
Why?
The federal government... normally their sales cycle is 24 months to 36 months. However, most awards are 5-year contracts.
So you're looking at the longevity
of the contract. And you get paid, your invoices are normally paid within 30 days, sometimes within 15 days. In the private sector, you can have meetings with a company. They can say they want to do work with you. They can award you the work, and 2 days later, they can cancel the work order. So as a small business, we've always thought that the federal government was a good place to start.
That's a very strategic focus in what you guys did to build your business.
But we will work with commercial
Of course
companies.
you will.
Well, having that strong foundation and then knowing that you can build from there. We always talk about cash flow and being able to establish companies that not only provide for ourselves, but for the people we seek to employ. And that's always something that talent we talked about is always looking for. When people decide to make a leap, they're looking for a company that they know they can grow with. And so I think that combination of the government contracts, which provide that longer term stability, as well as then the opportunity to seek new business with other corporations, that gives a nice balance from a lot of different perspectives.
I love the fact that you guys are very strategic and focused on how you were going to be looking at building your book of business through government contracts. So how was that process initially? I mean, you talked about going to the website. Can you repeat that website? Is this still a website that's still viable?
Oh yeah, of course. FBO.gov. Inside this website, they have a section that's dedicated just to small businesses. You can be a woman-owned business, minority-owned business. We're a hub zone-owned business.
What does that mean?
Hub zone stands for underutilized business zone. 35% of your employees need to work and live in that zone. and also there are set-aside contracts just for companies in that space to compete with.
Okay.
So that's based on your geographic location
Yes.
here in Missouri.
Yes, and the CORTEX surprisingly fits in the hub
It
zone.
does. Actually, this zip code, at least one of the zip codes within the CORTEX district, the 63108, I believe, it falls within the Promise Zone and the Hub Zone.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that really speaks to the regeneration that we've been talking about, because this wasn't always the area that we see today.
And and Christy, maybe since you mentioned Promise Zone for our listeners, what does that? Do you know what that kind of means, or
I can give you
a high level view of what that means?
My very cursory understanding, but from my understanding, the Promise Zone is a special federal designation.
Right.
We actually happen to have the largest Promise Zone in the country, in that we have both the city and the county represented, so that's unique. And we have almost 200,000 residents represented, which makes us a very large swath of area. And that here, too, is where concentrated effort of funding as well as resources are being infused into the community in an effort to create a rebirth, a regeneration.
Yeah, and I think it's important for everyone who's listening in the St. Louis region, especially, to understand these are two great opportunities for folks who are considering starting small businesses to have access to this Hub Zone and Promise Zone, because those are federal designation areas, but it comes with the opportunity for funding for your business, which I think is key.
There is definitely preference. I mean, I think Ralph can speak more to the Hub Zone piece.
And also with the region, especially with the CORTEX, which I can talk about a little bit, there's been a lot of great synergy with a lot of large multi-billion-dollar companies that I've been able to do some teaming opportunities just because of building relationships. I will always believe business is about relationships.
Absolutely.
So proximity matters.
Oh yeah, it does. And someone seeing you every day at the coffee machine, you talk about football or baseball or, God forbid, politics.
God forbid.
and you develop a relationship with them where they feel comfortable doing business with you.
Absolutely.
So when you looked in the government website, how did you go about building business outside of government relations? You talked about just networking. What were those? How did you build your book of business?
Relationships. At Skyder Force Base, at one point, I was in charge of the small business organization called FCA, which is Armed Forces Communications and Electronics Association, with a lot of great people, and they move on to the private sector, and they remember you, and they think about you, and they reach out to you. I mean, this has been since 2003. I mean, this has been a long process.
Well, and the care and feeding of relationships is always really important, that we never know who we're going to meet and how we can also support them in the work they're doing as much as they can support us in the work we're doing. So I want to talk about that a little bit more, and in particular, how some of those opportunities have translated even beyond your current business. I know that you've done some work with the Inner City Capital Connections Group and the 10,000 Small Businesses opportunity, and we're going to take a quick break and then come back and talk about that.
These can be stressful times. Not all stress is bad, but when we live with high levels of stress, it becomes toxic stress. Many of us feel stressed just trying to get through each day, and it may be getting harder to bounce back. Know that you have some support to manage stress and overcome the difficult things that may have happened or are happening to you. So take 5 to learn new ways to respond to stress. You deserve to be alive and well. Find more ways to take 5. Go to aliveandwellstl.com.
So relationships. So can you tell us a little bit about the Inner City Capital Connections and what that organization is doing with your company?
We were invited to an accelerator at Washington University, where we spent the whole day at Washington University. Professors from Harvard and other great business schools attended and gave intensive talks about marketing, social media. We're going to the award ceremony in New York on the 15th and 16th of November. They have webinars as well once a month. I mean, it's been a very powerful organization for us and has helped us a lot.
And you have to understand, this is a highly selective process.
That's
Ralph
what
talks
I'm saying.
about
He's
it
talking like we just showed up and we had a little this. We're going to go to award ceremony. I think there's more to this story.
It is a highly selective process. I think you have to have a certain amount of revenue that you're doing with your company, and you're invited into this whole award process. This is not. This is a wonderful thing, Ralph. He's so doggone low key about this.
So what did you have to do to qualify first off?
It was an application process. We were also nominated by an outstanding person here in St. Louis that works for a VA Business Accelerator, Darcella.
Oh, I'm a big fan of Darcella Craven and the Veteran Business Resource Center.
And she nominated us, and which we're very, very grateful for as a company.
Awesome.
That's
and
awesome.
those revenue goals and things like that meant your company was at a certain level of growth already. And so is this about accelerating you from where you are and really taking you to the next level?
Oh, yeah. It's also, we're in the process of trying to raise capital, like all small businesses.
Really? Because that was that was a question for me, because I know you're achieving revenue. You're getting revenue already from your business, but what are you trying to do with that raise? Are you expanding your business? What are you trying to do with it?
I bring on a stronger team of proposal writers. Proposals are very important in our business. I also bring on some more business development people, because as we grow, I've been in charge of most of the marketing, but I'm only one person. I can only be in one place at one time. Even
with the advent of social media, you all are an IT company, huh?
I'm old-fashioned. I still believe you should look a man in the eye or a woman in the eye.
Thank you.
Shake her hand or his hand. I think the personal touch goes a long way.
I agree with you. Yeah.
We've talked a lot about you being low-key, though. So if I actually wanted to look you in the eye and shake your hand, are there places I could find you around St. Louis?
Venture Cafe.
Yeah?
Yes.
A lot of RCGA organizational groups. You can see me pretty much any place, but I really focus on work. I mean, I'm someone who workaholic.
He's located in the 4240?
Yeah, 42 building of the CORTEX.
Which is, of course, where Venture Cafe is held every Thursday.
Right.
So that's a great opportunity. We always tell our listeners that there are things going on a regular basis, whether that's Venture Cafe on Thursdays or 1 Million Cups on Wednesdays. Startup Connection is an annual event, but that's happening not too long from now as well. So there's places to actually get to meet people, and not just LinkedIn, because as wonderful as that is as a way of keeping track of the folks we know, I think we've really touched upon the fact that this is about personal relationships and really staying connected on an intimate level and really understanding the business goals, what you're trying to achieve and what the talented professionals you meet are trying to achieve. I would imagine a good fit happens on a lot of different levels.
Correct. I would say more 80-20, more trying to meet the right people, because you have to screen people to give them the opportunity as far as recruiting. A recruiter can send you a person, but is that person the right cultural fit for your organization?
Right.
What would you do? How would you describe the culture of your organization?
I think it's very... we want people to be responsible for their actions. We want people that are self-starters. We want people who can lead and direct themselves. Because in IT, 80% of our, maybe even 90% of our employees, they don't work on site. There's nobody looking over them.
They've got to work independently.
They work for the customer, and they have to be able to get along with the customer, which is critical.
Absolutely. Yes.
Awesome.
Yes. So what kind of advice, because we have listeners out here, as I stated earlier, who are contemplating, I think, I might want to start a business. I have great skills in this area, and maybe it's a consulting business, or a service-oriented type of professional business. What advice would you give them starting out?
Number one, do your homework. There are several great books. Even the Dummies series has a book, Dummies for Consulting, How to Start a Consulting Business for Dummies. One of my favorite books that I'm reading right now is The IT Consultant by Rick Friedman. It's on Amazon.com, not to promote Amazon, but that's where the book is at.
Why does it make it your favorite? What's the insights that you're learning from it?
It really talks about a lot of things that we're talking about right now. You can be the best programmer or the best IT person, but a big part of the sales cycle is the personal relationship. There are a lot of great programmers, a lot of great technical people, but they don't have the connection with the customer.
So how long did it take you to actually land that first customer when you opened your business? Because a lot of people think, you could start your business while you're working someplace else until you start building that revenue. Is that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I worked odd jobs. I worked a lot of odd jobs until we landed our first customer.
So from the start of that process, what was it, a 2-year process until you first?
I was blessed and lucky. It probably was way closer to 16 to 18 months.
That's great, but that's a realistic number.
Yeah, but I would say in today's environment, 24 months to 36 months. One of the things with some of the younger people I'm trying to mentor about entrepreneurship, you can write out the fanciest business plan in the world, but you're the last one to get paid.
Right.
So,
absolutely.
And if you don't realize that when you start off being an entrepreneur, you have to meet payroll. The employees get paid first. You're the last person to get paid. And that's something anybody I talk to about entrepreneurship, you got
to have that side hustle somewhere. Right?
Yeah. Most definitely.
We always talk about that, Christy and I. It's like, it's not all about jumping out there and saying, okay, I'm going to quit my job and here I am.
If you have a nest egg saved up and you're willing to dip into your nest egg, it's a combination. If you're going to work 24 hours, 7 days a week, and you have a nest egg, that's different. But if you know that you have to, lucky for me, my son is grown, so I can be a little bit more
risky.
One less mouth to feed.
Yeah. And he's a good person, so that gives me a little bit more flexibility.
Right. And you can decide the one night to either eat chicken or eat steak, right?
I'm a ramen noodles guy. So.
Oh, real old school.
Yeah. Real sacrifice.
Yeah. Exactly.
It also reminds me of the conversation we had with Eddie Davis, where he often talks with entrepreneurs who spend that first dollar on themselves and then wonder why their business can't grow. So I think it's a really good reminder to those folks out there that if you have that illusion of, well, I'm just going to generate the money, I'll put it in my pocket and we'll go from there. That may work for in the short term, but it's not going to build a company like Ralph has, where we're actually creating jobs and new opportunities and growth. What I also heard was that while you're an IT company, you need a lot of folks who aren't necessarily IT people.
We've been around for 12, 13 years. So the goal of the next 24 months is to grow like 100, 150%. And a large portion of that will be the actual IT people.
That's awesome.
But you still need the business developments, the proposal managers, and that might be less than 5% of the total company.
Okay.
And I think what Christy's saying too is like you need some of those functional roles, like an accountant, a finance person, especially if you're getting ready to do a capital raise. So those type of individuals, even if you're not ready to jump off and do your own individual business, you can get your feet wet by maybe working in a business, a startup or something like that, to get the experience to and I think they're called execs on loan or something like that.
Well, there's that fractional executive.
That's it.
that sometimes works. But there's also just the opportunity to make a change and not necessarily go from big company to big company, but from big company to growing company. And I think that's a very different opportunity for a professional, even if they don't want to go out on their own eventually, even if they really do want to just be the specialist in what they do. It's that company culture, and it's also that company drive that I think can sometimes distinguish the opportunity.
So let me ask you a question, because I think all the time, I think it's wonderful that you made these great strides and achievements. What were some of the challenges, and how did you face those challenges? How did you overcome some of those challenges, maybe early on or even now? What are some of the challenges that you face in your business?
One of the things about my personality, for anyone that really knows, I'm very persistent. And I don't want to tell too many stories.
No, we want to hear them.
But
we want to know where the bodies are buried.
Back in my younger days, I played basketball, and I thought I was above average, but I was on the bench and I didn't start.
Okay.
And a team started off like 3-4. And I quit the team, and my dad was furious because he was always old school. You start something, you finish it. From the day I quit the team, they didn't lose another game. And they went all the way to the state championship.
Oh my gosh.
So every time I see my old coach, who cut me the next year when I went out for the team, I say, I thank you so much for teaching me a life lesson. And he always calls me Thompson. It's like, what do you mean, Thompson? Ever since that day, I never quit anything I started. And that's always been a driving, motivating factor in my personality. So you fast forward, certain opportunities have come because I'm kind of persistent. And I want to encourage anybody. You have a dream, you have a goal, you stick to it to the bitter end. You know, if they were turning off the lights at MSM, I would be there with a candle.
Oh,
great. I love that analogy. That is wonderful. Ralph, I think you're inspiring me. Heck, I love sitting here talking to you.
No doubt. Actually, before we go, I want to ask about your son. And so what is he pursuing? Does he have that entrepreneurial spirit?
He's a beautiful spirit. He's a good person, and he's trying to find his own way and his own journey.
Awesome.
He's living in San Diego on the beach. And
oh, my gosh.
Oh, now my husband's jealous.
Has his dreadlocks and listens to some good reggae and relaxing.
Okay.
Well, hey, at least you don't have to. I'm sure as dad, you're still supporting him. But he's looking at me like, are you kidding?
Hey, we all find ourselves.
Yes,
right?
we do. Yes,
and we find ourselves at different points, and that's part of what we're telling our listeners.
Everybody
is
has
as they
to
go
find
out
their
and
journey.
look to try and find themselves.
Oh no,
and their next
don't get me wrong. He's my heart.
Yeah.
I have no doubt. I see the light in your eyes.
Yeah, I would die for him. So he's my love of my life. So
that is fantastic.
It's a nice note to end on.
It is.
Ralph, thank you so much for joining us.
thank you for having me.
Changing the way you view new ventures, igniting your thinking about entrepreneurship. It's entrepreneurially thinking. Get connected and discover more. Visit our website for show notes, resources, information about our guests, upcoming events, and of course, all your favorite episodes. If you have any questions, be sure to leave them for us in the comment sections, and be sure to leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes. The best way to show love is to share. Let everybody know that you're thinking entrepreneurially. So visit our website, entrepreneuriallythinking.com. #eThinkSTL. Entrepreneurially Thinking is another positive production of Rare Gem Productions. Thanks for listening.